At some point, you have to take responsibility for your own outcomes, even if other people were responsible for initially pushing your life in a certain direction. You can only blame them for so long. Eventually, you have to change your route by making new and different decisions. Tweeted by Tony Tone. And we got to give a round of applause. We got to give a round of applause for that opener, honey, because Tony Tone did grab, snatch, and drag edges and sideburns. And I say sideburns because I got some. Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. I've had my medication. I've had a hot shower. I had a hot chocolate. And I'm here, okay? I'm here to deliver to you this week's episode of the Toy Talks podcast, which I think I'm entitling The Psychological Contract. However, by the end of the episode, maybe the ancestors might want to rename it, and I'm open to that. So, before we get into the meat potatoes, I say the meat, but really it's the chicken, potatoes and stuffing, because all I do is watch TikTok. Food, people eating food is my obsession, and I think it's because I have been unable to eat proper food and what feels like ages, and I'm just picking, and I can only eat 2 meals a day now, so I can eat a breakfast and one other meal. Anything other than that, I start to feel sick. I can snack, so I can have like popcorn or like a bit of chocolate, but honey and everyone knows, like, I'm a fat babe, and I'm a fat babe that likes food. Or should I say I was a fat babe? I'm no longer that. So I feel like my stomach has shrunk. And in shrinking, I look at food and I desire it. But once it's in front of me, I'm not interested anymore. However, I have this new obsession with a lobster roll. And those of you who used to, I say used to, but I am present on Snapchat, but not as much as possible. Not as much as I could do, sorry. But those of you who follow me on my Instagram page, Toy_Washington, you guys will all remember, yeah, when I used to order burger and lobster to my flat. And I used to have a succulent lobster roll with butter. And then I used to have the skinny fries. And they used to give the salad. And I used to just dash the salad in the bin, because what am I doing with that salad? And it just tasted so good. I think in the moment, I never really appreciated it as much. And now I'm like completely outside London. There ain't no burger and lobster around here. You can't get a lobster roll unless you buy the roll, buy the lobster, and make it yourself. And I ain't got time for that. And you know what? I was saying this on Instagram, and I'm going to say it here on the podcast. You see, when you're thinking of moving and people are like, oh, I want to move outside London, cost of living, everything. All those things are true to an extent. However, it's still expensive because you're still going to the same supermarkets and stuff like that. But there's a greater consideration that I don't think anybody has truly taken into consideration. Now, I grew up in North London, Tottenham. Y'all know that. And something I appreciate, and if you don't, then you're going to learn to appreciate, is Tottenham has the best Turkish food in London. And I'm talking about Turkish food with the fresh Turkish bread. Honey, are we talking about the dona, the shish, the kufta? The salads. Stop it. Are we going to talk about Lebanese food? Oh yes, let's talk about Lebanese food. All I know is when it comes to Lebanese food, Turkish food, North London does the best. And if you want to know where in North London in particular, Green Lanes. Oh my God. Like, it be everything. But when one is thinking of moving outside London, you have to consider the food outeries, the food locations, like what do you have around you? See, I wasn't thinking about them things. I was thinking about greenery and space. But you see, in a situation like this where I just want some comfort food, like stodgy food, and it's not always about okra soup or bona and pounded yam. It's not always about that. Sometimes it's about some good, freshly cooked kebab. Can't get that around here. What about Boss Man one-piece chicken and chips? Do you know how many episodes of the Pengus Munch I'm having to look at? You know Pengus Munch, chicken connoisseur? Yeah. I have to be watching on YouTube to just see one-piece chicken and chips with a strip burger. And I can't get that around here. I literally, if you go to the chicken and chip shop that I've seen that shop looks like it was the first place that contracted COVID. You can't see me there. I don't know, there's something about it, it doesn't say I'm clean. And then, I don't know, then price is looking crazy. But I can't even go in there because I don't know if I'm going to get COVID, I'm going to get the local virus. I don't know what I'm getting in there. So I don't even go there. And the chicken and chip shop does not reflect the chicken and chip shop I'm used to seeing, because it just also doesn't belong where it is, if that makes sense. So the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like when I look at things holistically, I wish I really considered eateries, you know, and Deliveroo can only do so much, honey. I'm outside the motherfucking M25. So I ain't getting burger and lobster unless I go into London. So I thought that this weekend I'd be able to do that. It was like a washout. It's been like the rain, like where I live, has just been a joke. And I heard it's much the same in London. So I opted to no. Okay? I even booked a reservation. I was like, girl, you ain't doing it. Also, as well, I am nervous. Obviously, like, I haven't really ventured out in a few months. I'd say since the wedding blessing, because I've just been that unwell. And if I am to go, I can't go by myself. I've got to go with someone. So, yeah, you know, I'm just here to just say that I need a lobster roll with fries. So, burger and lobster, if you'd like to sponsor me to come there, send a car, I can come. Or, the better lesson here is when you are considering buying a place outside London, and you're considering buying anywhere, actually, it's not just a place outside London. If food is important to you, then you need to think about eateries and you know, the things that we overlook, like one piece chicken and chip. I grew today. You know, the £1 pizzas, like after school, we would go, and I liked a £1 pizza as long as the cheese melted on the base of that pizza. I like it. Anyway, that's enough about that. Me, I can talk about food all day. However, that's not what we're here to do. But you don't have to keep it light, keep it funky. So, where do I start? So, obviously, interest rates have risen. And you all know how I feel about finances. I have a podcast on financial education, financial literacy. And I do talk about my own personal journey with my financial literacy, which was non-existent until I really started understanding finances and my finances. And I definitely know during this cost of living crisis, and especially things are tight, I don't think that the economy, this country, or we have actually really recovered from the aftermath of what was and is still COVID. And just because we're not on lockdown doesn't mean that we're not on a financial lockdown. And a lot of people are on that. And I think we need to talk about that. So the interest rates have gone up because the Bank of England rates have gone up, and we're seeing inflation at an all-time high. I think it's the highest they said in 40 years or something. And, you know, I've got a credit card, I've got an Amex, and I specifically have the credit card for big purchases. So, for example, when we were buying furniture for the new house, I used my credit card, and, you know, I don't know how people view credit cards, but I don't trust them, I don't like them, but I recognize how you could be responsible. And with a credit card, it's about being responsible. I think that credit cards are good if you have the financial literacy to manage it, but it's not good for everybody. I only had my credit card, I think it was like 2 years ago. I never had a credit card before then, because I really messed up my credit when I was younger, thinking credit cards were free money, because my financial literacy was not there. I was financially illiterate. When I started to educate myself, and also being with somebody who is in finance, is in finance, and has been in finance for the last 10 years, and understanding how the financial markets work has really helped me to really have a better understanding about finances. And I've had to go on my own personal journey to improve my own understanding about my finances and why and where it comes from and how to better my finances. So I have a balance on my credit card. It's a manageable balance. It's nothing that I'm worried about. But then I called Amex today and I said to them, you know, what's the current APR? Because the thing with me is I don't pay the minimum. So if my minimum, say, is £200, I'm paying £500, I'm paying £600. I'm not paying the minimum. And I have a plan to pay off my credit card by January. In fact, I could pay off the credit card today. But the reality is I have a plan, I'm sticking to it, and it's working by the grace of Almighty God and by the grace of the ancestors. The APR when I took out the credit card, I believe was 21.5% or something thereabouts. The APR rose in, I wrote this down. Toya, where did you put this? Where is it? Oh, I'm going to have to do this off memory. So the APR rose to 31.5 or 31.6 in July. I received no notification from Amex. Now, a lot of you will be like, oh, you can complain, you can do all of this, do all of this. The reality is credit cards are usually on a variable rate. Therefore, you already sign for them to be able to increase or decrease the interest rates. And the reality is, yeah, they should notify you. It's good practice. But will they? No, because they'll rely on the terms and conditions that you signed initially when you took out the credit card. Today, the APR on my credit card is 30%. So I was like, do I wait till January or do I wait till December? That credit card needs to be paid off in full and complete. And I will just keep the credit card in the house, but I will never use it. And I've just decided that I will never, once I've paid off my credit card, I will never use my credit card again unless it's a big purchase that I can pay on the day. I think for me, I used to pay on the day, and then I understood how credit cards work. And actually, it's not a bad thing to have a balance, but in this instance where the APR has significantly increased, it's not in my financial interest to keep a balance on there. So I've got a plan, I'm fine, I'm not sweating it. But I just thought to myself, do people understand that because of the rise in the APR, the interest rate that you're paying is really expensive? And actually, if you keep a very low balance, so what they say is, I think it's 20, if your utilization is up to 25%, usually that's a good balance to have, and I think I'm about 25%. But the reality is, you want to get it to a nil, especially if the interest rates are rising and you're on a variable credit card. So it's something that I wanted to share here today, just because it's just shocking. And when I told Kay was absolutely flabbergasted at the increase over the last 2 years. And this is bearing in mind that the credit card company continues to write to me, Toya, we want to raise your credit limit to 10,000. We want to raise it to 18,000. They actually messaged me a couple of weeks ago, and they said, we're happy to lend you on the credit card, happy to raise your credit on the credit card to £18,000. And I just thought to myself, that is so reckless. It's so reckless in a cost of living crisis. It's so reckless knowing that people are struggling. You don't know my financial position, and actually you're actually taking advantage of what's happening in the market. And Kay was like, well, for them, Toya, it's a business, and they just see you as a cog in a wheel that contributes to their business, and that's all it is. Is it reckless? Yes. Do they have your best interest at heart? No. Do they want you to continue to owe them money so that they're in business? Of course. They hate that I pay bulks of that credit card off. They can't stand it. And this is why when I make large payments, and I'm telling you, it's almost paid off. They will call me and say, is there anything they can do? They've noticed that I've, almost paid off my credit card. And I'm like, what do you mean if there's anything you can do? You could have notified me the increase of the APR, but you don't do that. But you know how to notify me that you want to increase my credit, and you know how to contact me because you know that this balance is about to be paid off, and I'm no longer, I'm no longer fresh meat for you, So can we please be aware, it doesn't apply just to credit cards. It applies to any type of credit, including overdrafts as well. I don't have an overdraft. I've never been interested in having one. I will never take out an overdraft. My accounts do not have it. I understand why people have it. You all know I'm not a judgy person. I don't judge people. You do whatever you feel that you need to do. But financial literacy needs to be taught in the curriculum, or at least I'm trying here to kind of pass on the knowledge and pass on the education that I have about finances. I'm not a financial guru. Never held myself out to be. I'm just somebody who has been whipped and flogged by being irresponsible financially, and it's taken a few years to recover, and I'm at that point now where I'm in a good position to understand the implications of certain things. I may not be a millionaire, but believe me when I tell you that I understand how to manage and invest my money, and I understand how the financial markets work to an extent. I'm no financial whiz. but I do consider myself as financially responsible. Something that really made me uncomfortable is I was on Deliveroo, because obviously, you know, I love food. And I was ordering, I think it was KFC. KFC's really changed. It's really gone downhill. Oh, God. Never again. And when I went to pay, because obviously I've saved my bank details, I saw Klarna. And I was so confused. And I remember posting on my Instagram, Toya_Washington. And a lot of people came into my DMs and they were like, Toya, it's absolutely disgusting. How can, you know, people are struggling to eat. So then obviously, you know, if people can't cook or they can't get to a supermarket, they get this food on credit and then they end up owing Klarna for food. And it's purely, for me, it's exploiting people's vulnerability and everybody has a need to survive, and survival is being able to eat. And it really, really hurt me. I'm such an empath. But it hurt me that there are going to be people who rely on Klarna to eat. And I hate that. It just upsets me because they're paying a debt off because they needed food. And obviously you can use Deliveroo and Uber to order groceries. So I said to Kay, I feel like we're living in a cycle of debt, but it's irresponsible debt. And I place a bulk of that responsibility on the creditors, on the banks, on the loan companies, and they're just like sharks. And how they're ever allowed to do this, I really don't know. I know businesses offer the use of Klarna, and for me, I understand it, but I don't think it's very ethical. And that's just my view. It's not me judging, it's not me making an assumption, it's nothing like that. I just personally don't think it's ethical. Those are my personal views. And given that this is a podcast that I host, I'm allowed to share my personal views, and that's it. But I guess people money for making it. That topic really pisses me off. So today I posted something, and actually no, before we even get into all of that, I feel like I need to talk about this topic, albeit briefly. So I don't know if you guys all remember that I told you that I had like a friendship WhatsApp group, and we talk about things, you know, people, you know, they share stuff. For example, when Liz Truss was sacked, like, and obviously because I've been so unwell, it's been nice to like see the WhatsApp group and see the conversations. I don't really take part that much. It depends. Like, if it's rare for me to say something in the group, and if I do, it's about, I don't know. The last time I properly had a conversation in the group was about the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I think I shared with you. I had a friend, she's Chinese origin, and you know we had a conversation. And basically, long and the short of it is, you can't be a friend of mine, call yourself an ally, but your allyship is not allying. And I held her accountable. And we don't really talk, to be honest, and I don't really give a shit. But I know she listens to the podcast, 100%. And you're welcome. I have no issue, and I have no issue with you. But I've told you in the group, I've told you in person, and I've told you on the phone that I think that you're a bit of a hypocrite, to be honest, because you want to talk about things that affect you and your culture, and that's fine. But when it comes to me and my culture, you're as quiet as a church rat. So I don't understand. But I guess people do their allyship so secretly you don't even hear it. So in the WhatsApp group, we've got a couple of friends who are Jewish, and I was asked a very direct question. And everyone knows, if you follow me on social media, that I admire Kanye's business acumen. Well, I did, up until he recently undid it all. But I used to admire his business acumen, his business strategy, and his creativity. All of that has been undermined by his racist and anti-Semitic views and his continued attack on the black culture, the Jewish culture, and then him then leaning into his blackness when it suits him. And I think it's more than just his mental health. I think he's standing on
very shaky ground. But it did start here. When he said that slavery was a choice, you already know that this man, it's a problem. He's got a problem. You know, I mean, if I was to really share my view about Kanye, like, I'm just so disgusted and so disappointed in him, and continue to be. We all know, like, the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement is because a black man was murdered, and we watched it, we saw the videos. And for him to even say the things that he said, because I'm never going to repeat them, turns my stomach. And I'm just so ashamed of him. However, in the WhatsApp group, some of our Jewish friends, you know, they were sharing their views, and quite rightly so. And one of our friends in the group, who is still a friend, he knows that I'm going to be doing this podcast. I had a chat with him. He asked me a direct question. He said, Toya, and we all know how much you love Yeezys. You've got all of us onto Yeezys. Are you still going to be wearing your Yeezys? I was like, I messaged in the group. I was like, pardon? I said, why won't I? They were like, because he's anti-Semitic and he's racist. I said, okay. But I'm going to be wearing them trainers because I paid for it. Am I supposed to burn the trainers? And I had no response. So I'm assuming I'm supposed to burn my trainers. I said, you burn your trainers and then have a think about it. He didn't burn his trainers. So I don't know whether that was like some type of test. I don't know what that was, or I know what it was, but I weren't having it. So I don't do this back and forth thing. I don't do arguments. I'm not that person. I don't care for an argument. You're not paying me. And even if he was paying me, that's energy that I've got to use to do a back and forth. So I called him. I said, listen, if you want to have a chat about something, let's have a chat. But what you're never going to do is put me, a black woman, on the spot for whatever reason, whether it's a test, whether it's whatever. Because as a black woman, I'm always a moving target. And as a black woman, I'm always being placed on the spot. So what you're never going to do is ever try to assume a position in my personal space and think that I'm just going to pretend or go along with it. If I choose to wear my Yeezys, that's a matter for me. And that's a matter for my conscience, and that's a matter of choice. You've got to remember something here. I spent my hard-earned cash. It's not like it was a brand sponsorship deal. It wasn't like Yeezy gifted them to me directly. I spent my money. And for me, I find them very comfortable trainers. I says, there's a lot of people who have done racist things. And I don't know if it's commonplace to then destroy what they've done. I don't know. You tell me. I said, but I think this is a bigger conversation. And the bigger conversation, I feel, needs to be led by you as someone who is Jewish. What do you want to talk about? And he spoke about, you know, his experiences. He spoke about some of his family history. He also spoke to me about how pained he was at what Kanye said, because he's a huge Kanye fan. And then I had to explain to him that the pain I have is when you tell me, or you say in a public space, that slavery was a choice. That's painful because I know the history of slavery. And I understand, as a black woman, also the impact of slavery. And I can never understand fully what happened because I wasn't there. But I know that the history books don't do justice. Then obviously we went on and spoke about the things that he had said, not only about the Jewish community, but the black community. And I said, we share pain differently because you share it in respect to what he said about Jewish people, and I share it differently in respect to what he said about black people. But where the commonplace is the pain and is the racism. So rather than ask me to pick a side, why don't you ask me if I understand how you feel, and I ask you if you understand how I feel? And he apologized, and I said, I can't apologize for what Kanye said simply because I'm a black woman sharing a race with him. And I can't be expected to explain his behavior because all I do is share a race with him. I'm not his friend. I'm not his confidant.
I'm not his lawyer. I don't know why he does what he does. And the only person responsible for the things that come out of his mouth is him. And he has to face the consequences of that. And he is. And it was a very productive, educational conversation. And that's what I love. I love the fact that we were able to have an educational conversation. I just didn't like how it started. And I made it very clear, don't ever do that again. I don't care if you're angry. I don't care if whatever. Don't do that. Because it feels like an attack. And when somebody feels attacked, how are they going to sit and have an educational conversation? I'm coming away from this conversation educated, more educated than when I came into it, because I'm hearing directly from you. And I'd like to think the same. And he says 100%. I said, I should have never asked you that question. And to be fair, he goes, I'm not getting rid of my trainers, Toya, or my apparel. I said, exactly. But let's have progressive conversations, because I feel like the only way to dismantle certain things and certain concepts and certain things that are not true is to have conversation. And we had a 2-hour conversation, which for me was great. And I fully respect him, and he knows that anyway. I grew up in Tottenham, so there's a big Jewish community in Tottenham as well. So, you know, I'm very aware of certain things, and you know, I understand it. But I feel like this is the problem, isn't it? Feeling like you can't have certain conversations because you're worried about how it would be perceived when all you're trying to do is educate yourself. And what I will say is, you're not responsible as black women. I'm going to be clear. We're not responsible for the racist things that black people say, especially black men. The choices that they make is up to them. And also, you can't be responsible for what comes out of people's mouth because you share a race with them. That's crazy. And I think that you need to reiterate that and be clear about that. Because I am, and I was. So I kind of want to move on to the meat of this episode. And I've entitled this episode, The Psychological Contract. Whether we want to accept it or not, either currently, previously, or whatever. To an extent, we sign this psychological contract. In particular, it's a contract that makes black women uncomfortable and sets us at a disadvantage, because I feel as though the psychological contract we sign is to make others feel comfortable around us. You know, when you're working in spaces where, as black people, we're a minority, we're hyper vigilant and hypersensitive to how we come across. We don't want to come across aggressive. We don't want to come across overbearing. We don't want to be a know-it-all. We want to be accepted. So there's a psychological contract that we sign, so that and you sign it, and when you're in the workplace, you're not realizing that you're adapting yourself to fit in and make others feel comfortable. And the only person in the room that feels uncomfortable is you, because you're not being yourself, or you're made to feel like being yourself is not accepted. I picked up a new contract. I started a new contract last week. I literally been there for 4 days. 4 days. So even if I'm the most mischievous person, I don't know what I could do in 4 days. But the reality is I'm not. When I take on a new assignment, I give the client the opportunity to decide if they want to send me out equipment. 9 times out of 10, they send me equipment, to be honest, because number one, I've signed a contract. Number two, you can just withhold my last invoice until you get your equipment back. I take very good care of my equipment, so the packaging that you send the equipment to me with, I keep it so that when the assignment's done, I send it back to you. And you guys have heard in previous podcasts my expectation about collection of kit and stuff like that. Now, this particular client didn't offer me that, and I was told that I had to use my own equipment. Now, the problem with using your own equipment is I've got a brand new laptop that my business owns, so I can use that. In fact, when I bought this laptop for my business, I bought a laptop for Jennifer and Simone as well, and it's proper laptops, okay? I already have MacBooks and stuff, but for my business, I bought a Microsoft laptop, like a HP, and I think, really and truly, I think I'm going to upgrade to a ThinkPad. But I don't think it makes much of a difference, to be honest. But anyway, the problem I have with using your own equipment is they provide you with the details so you can remotely log in, and they kind of use like an application, almost like to patch you in. And the problem with that is usually those applications are not very good. They're usually like on this 2-second delay. Depending on the application, it's just quite slow, yeah? And that's the position I found myself in. Lucky for me, on the first day, the client said to me, and this particular client is the main person that I'm going to be working with, is lovely. And he says, Toya, I don't know whether you wanted equipment or not, but do you want me to order you a laptop? He just come out of it, and I said, that'd be perfect. In fact, I would have asked you, because this remote in, it's not good. And I've spoken to your IT department, and they said to me it's not good. So I'm actually really happy you said that. So what's the RTA on it? So he said, oh, within a week you'd have it. I said, perfect. So we're just going to have to carry the burden of pain. He goes, Toy, I'm so sorry. If I had known when we made you the offer contractually, I would have ordered it then. I said, listen, I'm the test case for you to advocate for the next person and make sure that they get equipment. He says, perfect. So obviously, as part of the issues with the laptop, I can't switch my camera on because it starts to interfere with with me speaking and the mic and everything. So when someone's coming into a meeting with me remotely, they have to all switch their cameras off. That's how it goes. So there's a white lady, and her name is Stella. That's what we're calling her. And Stella didn't get her groove back. That's what I will say. So Stella works in the West Indies, and she works for the company remotely, obviously. And funny enough, she was in my interview, and I never liked her then. And I didn't like her because her line of questioning was stupid. When you're asking me, why have I chosen to be a contractor rather than a perm? That's not something about delivery of a project. That's you telling me that you have an issue with contractors. That's what that tells me. And I've told you all to do your due diligence from the interview. In fact, from the moment they engage you, that's where you do the due diligence. So I already knew that she was potentially a problem. So I'm in a meeting now, day 2. And for every meeting, I'm explaining the problem. Because for me, I feel like I've got enough, especially because the guy that I'm working with, the main client, he's there. So he's also explaining. It's not like, I'm hiding anything. So the woman, Stella, now sends me a message, and she says, IT are asking... No, she said... No, I told her that I was dealing with someone in IT and they're going to call me. But obviously, I couldn't call them. It was just mad. So she said to me, do you know who you were dealing with? And I told her the name. Then she looked up the name on Outlook. And I did think it was a bit strange, but I was like, all right, maybe she's trying to be helpful. So she says, I can send her an email, ask her to call you. I said, fantastic. Because obviously, my emails were slow. Anyway, later on that day, I messaged Stella, and I said, Stella, because I was able now to use Teams properly, but it was still delayed, but it was better than what it was before IT had tried to help. And I said, please, can you give me the lady's email address? Because I'd looked on Outlook and couldn't find it. So she says, it's on Teams. I says, okay, but I've looked and my laptop's playing up. So she gave me the details. So I emailed the lady and I said, I just want to email her to thank her for her time because she was lovely. Do you know this silly bitch, Stella, sent an IM to the guy that I'm working with to tell him that she thinks I need Microsoft Teams training. He said to her, I don't think so. I just think that Toy's having issues, so where we can help her, we have to help her until the laptop comes. Some of you probably listening to that thinking, but Toya, there is something there. Saying to someone that I need Microsoft Teams training is basically saying that I'm incompetent, isn't it? Start hearing what people are saying. But that's not what she said to me. She seemed like she was being helpful, Hannah. No. I just ignored it. Ask me how I know. The guy that is helping me out, he told me. The guy that I'm working with, he's very straight. He's like me. He will say how it is. And I think the reason he told me was like telling me just to be a bit aware. But what he's not realizing, I've been aware. So then, day 3, I was in a meeting with the CEO. It was me, the other guy, and the CEO. And he was explained, he knew what the issues were. He was very happy to turn his camera off. I said, don't worry, the next time I have a meeting with you, I'll switch my camera on. You know, we laughed about it. End of story. Then there was another meeting that happened later that day. And Stella, her groove came. In that meeting, people were talking. I had nothing to say. I think it was more an observational meeting. Do you know that Stella sent me a Teams message? Remember, I haven't spoken to her since I asked her for that woman's email address. Do you know what this stupid bitch said? Yeah, she's stupid and she's a bitch. Toya, why don't you give us your personal email address so that we can be sending you Teams invites via your personal email address, and then you won't have any issue. I looked at that message and I thought, okay, you want to be a bitch. You want to make me uncomfortable. You want to pass on. No problem. And what suits you? You came looking for me on day 3. I will deal with you on day 4. The next day, I just ignored her. The next day I replied. I said, Stella, I've come into the organization to do a complete overhaul of your contracts. You're going through a transformation period where you're incorporating certain governance policies and procedures about how you all deal with contracts. Part of that is data protection, cybersecurity, and confidentiality. I want you to be aware that my personal email is number 1, personal, and number 2, that's my GDPR. Thirdly, we can use a recent example of the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, who compromised her government position by using her personal email address. In that personal email address, it's alleged that either she was sending or receiving highly classified government documentation. This is the reason the first time she had to resign. Now, are you now telling me that I should compromise my insurance and my professionalism and my personal position, contracting here, by using my personal email address and compromising this organization? Because from that personal email address, some of your meetings have classified documentation. And may I add that your company here is regulated. So if you're audited, it's going to be a problem. I'm surprised that somebody of your professional standard and caliber would even suggest something so contradictory to this entire project and this organization. Please refrain from asking me to use my personal details to make your life more comfortable. The position that we're in now is because your company decided not to send me a laptop device. Since that has been reversed and one is being sent to me, I will ask you to accommodate this uncomfortable time. I'm sure there will come an opportunity where the laptop will come, and when it comes, I'll be able to function a bit more adequately than I am. Full stop. I sent it to her. I completely understand. You better, bitch. I screenshot the whole thing. Me. Listen, I don't look for your trouble. But if you look for mine, you will be sorry. 4 days. 4 days. The guy that I work with, later that day, he said, Toya, Stella emailed me. And she said that you refused to provide your personal email address. And I said that decision is up to you. I said, please hold on there. I sent him the screenshot. I said, this is the behavior you're trying to stamp out. But somebody in this position is encouraging such behavior. I said, what needs to happen to this company? You guys need to be audited. And then as a result of that auditing, you guys need to be flogged. And then pay a substantial amount of money for breaches. And then you'll see a change of behavior. I told him. He went quiet. I said, you've brought me in here to do a job. Stella has a problem. And I suggest you go and talk to her. Because if I talk to her, she'll feel uncomfortable. He said, oh, she was saying that she just really wanted you to put your camera on so that she can connect with you and feel comfortable. I said, her connection and her comfortability has got nothing to do with me. If she's uncomfortable, it's because of whatever is personally going on with her. That's not my problem. He goes, understood. The reason I share this with you is that word, comfortable. I want you to explain to me how switching on a camera makes somebody feel comfortable. Does it make sense? But if this had been a few years ago, I would have moved heaven and earth to make that silly cow feel comfortable at my own detriment. Even if it meant buying a brand new laptop, knowing that I had one coming, I would have done it. Because we are so pressed to make others feel comfortable. When these people are uncomfortable with our skill, with our tenacity, with our accomplishments, and with our black skin, they're uncomfortable. But it's expected that we make them feel comfortable at our own detriment, because they know that we've signed a psychological contract that makes us want to bend over backwards so they're comfortable. You lower your voice so you don't seem aggressive. You gel down your hair because you don't want your hair making you look a certain way that doesn't conform to the beauty standards that are pushed in society. You wear a suit because you don't want to look like you're not serious about your job. You put your camera on even though you're the only one in the meeting, but you want to make you're the only one in the meeting with your camera on. You put it on because you want other people to know that you're present. The psychological contract that we continue to sign and push is a problem. We need to get to a point whereby if you're uncomfortable, you say it, and you don't conform as your first default to make others feel better. You see, being comfortable is a two-way street, but it's been a one-way street for many, many years. You see, when you start talking about race and Black Lives Matter, they feel uncomfortable. And then what do? You stop talking about it to make them feel comfortable. When you talk about your racial experiences, they start shuffling in their seats, and then you start to pause and rephrase what you're going to say so they feel comfortable. Why? Because when they're perpetrating their madness, they're not thinking about how uncomfortable they make you feel. That woman looks like she eats pepper. You know, the Scotch bonnet, like an apple, because she's red every day. Why can't you be red every day? The demon that lives inside you continues to pressure you to be mad. And then you come out here and you're mad. And what suits you? Because I will get you together. I will pack you up. You will be packed up. But I have to say this. I'm very fucking exhausted. 4 days. 4 days. I barely knew how to log in. And you're already bringing this? I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a lot, but 4 days is a record for me. Pressure from day one. I was like, what is this? You know, the only saving grace is that she's not my key stakeholder. I don't have to work with her. But you know what's making her angry? Let me tell you what her problem is. This black woman has come in to do a transformation project. She's used to being in control of everything. They've got external advice, they've got external this, and she's not involved in any of it. And she knows I'm fucking damn good at my job, and it is causing her pain. It's causing her pain. So that comfortable she's looking for, if she wants my camera on so she can see my house, or maybe my background, so she can see my eyes, my ears, my nose. What she doesn't realize is even if that computer comes, if I don't want to put my camera on, I'm not going to do it. I'll put it on when I feel like. If I don't feel like, I won't. And if she mentions this camera again, I'm going to ask her if she has a problem. I will ask her directly there. My job is not to make other people feel comfortable. That's not my job. I'm not a therapist. Do you know what my job is? Whatever it is that I sign in a contract to deliver, that is my job. I'm done with making other people feel comfortable. Some of you will not negotiate your contracts because you don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable and cause them to withdraw the job offer. You're willing to forego what you deserve to make others feel comfortable. And then you get angry when you go through the job and find out there's people that are less experienced than you, less educated, getting more money. Can you see how detrimental that psychological contract is that we sign? Subconsciously, we're signing it. Every single time we're signing it. Every single time we sign. When you have to think about dumbing something down, watering it down because you don't want to make someone uncomfortable, that's when you choose to sign that psychological contract. And the only person that pays the price is you. Now, I'm not talking about what I want to be clear is I understand and I accept that when you're working in a professional environment, there's a way, that you hold yourself out, 100%. But when we are talking about things that make you uncomfortable, it's not about the professionalism. It's about your psychological well-being in an organization. That's what we're talking about. But some of us continue to sign the psychological contract and we become angry and bitter because we're not being able to vocalize what it is we want to say, because we are continually allowing ourselves to be controlled by what makes others feel uncomfortable. That's my problem. Now, this woman, when she got that email from me, she didn't know what to do with herself. There was a document that I needed from her because she had it. It took her 24 hours before she sent it. Oh, if I need anything, I should come to her so she can explain it. I don't need your explanation. She's not going to have anything to do with me more than I'm going to allow her. She's not coming near me. Funny enough, she's coming over for Christmas. And she said, she hopes that all of us will meet up. I'll even tell her, I'm sorry, I've made the decision not to attend. She's not even going to be around me. I'm not going to give her the ability to be around me because I don't want her to talk and say I looked at her in some way and she felt intimidated. I'm not having that. And I don't need to go where they're going. I'm not interested. This is an assignment. When the assignment is done, I'll be gone. I'm here to be paid and delivered. I'm here for a short time, not a long time. So I'm not interested in making her feel comfortable. So let me ask the question. If I put my camera on and she feels uncomfortable, what should I do about that? Next, you'll be hearing, oh, I'd like to sit in the office with you so that I can see how... Fuck off. Fuck right off. Fuck off. And I don't know what is wrong with these Karens. These Karens are just very tapped. Very tapped. I am not the one for that. I'm too old and it's petty. The level of pettiness that one has to go down. Because is it Michelle Obama says, if they go low, you go high. Not me. If they go low, I'll go to the gutter. I'll tear your singlet. We will do the do. I'm not here. If they go low, you go high. How many highs can you go on? How many psychological highs am I gonna, psychological contracts am I gonna keep signing to go to that high? Sometimes you have to go straight. You have to go straight. So I want you to understand something. I put this woman in her place. Use my professionalism to give her a live example. Because she may be in the West Indies, but her family are from the UK. She knows what's happening here. And let her understand that you may not appreciate the implications of what you're asking me to do, but I do. Next, you'll be asking me for my mobile number. Next, you'll be asking me for my address. Where do you draw the line? I'm no longer signing that psychological contract. I'm not signing it. Where I psychologically agree that how you feel supersedes how I feel. Your comfortability is more than mine. Your well-being is more than mine. I'm not signing that no more. What I'm going to say is this. If the things I talk about, so for example, if we're having a discussion about inclusion and diversity and it makes you feel uncomfortable, good. It makes you feel uncomfortable either because you're complicit or because you are having to tap into something that makes you uncomfortable. Good. Let's go there so that you can now be comfortable when we talk about it. In fact, I believe that knowledge makes people feel comfortable because from knowledge comes understanding. That's my view. I'm no longer subscribing to this psychological contract. That contract has been terminated, effective immediately. There's a girl that I follow on TikTok. I like her. She has a nice energy. One young black girl, nice energy. She's from the States. She emigrated here. I don't know if it's immigration, but let me call it emigrate. She emigrated here to work for a management consultancy. And she's living her best life in London. And I love that for her. Was it yesterday I saw on her page? No, a couple of weeks ago she was sharing, you know, her journey in management consultancy. I know the one she works for. I can tell. It's one of the big four. Because she says it anyway. And she said, oh, she's working all the hours God sends and all of this and all of this. The girl was stressed. Every time you see her, her eyes bloodshot. Then one day, when did you sleep? So yesterday now, she popped up on my, because I follow her, so she popped up on my page. And she wrote something, she said, she took a 40% pay cut for the role that she's in now. And she's so exhausted and so tired. And then I was like, excuse me? And she was saying that she's burning the midnight oil or what she was saying. But she took a 40% pay cut and she's proud to come and say it. That's the psychological contract I'm talking about. Where you feel that you have to take a hit like that, a financial hit. Because what? You think that in order for you to take that hit, then you become more deserving of the role? No, I can't take that hit. Sorry. So I posted something today. Dear black women, why is it that we take pride in sharing that we have taken a pay cut for a certain role? What are you celebrating? Taking less money for a role where they will overwork you, have you do more than your job description and get you to train someone earning more than you. That's a form of mental slavery. And I said what I said. I'm telling you, that's mental slavery. Because you see this young lady, she signed that psychological contract that tells her in order to gain more, she has to earn less. But have you really gained more? Okay, she's working for this management consultancy, but in order to get back up to that pay bracket, this midnight oil that you're burning, you'll continue to burn it for many years just to reach the same pay bracket that you left. Then that's not talking about all the other things that you're going to have to do to even get that pay rise or to get that promotion. Why has suffering got to be part of your choice in wanting to be great and successful? Why does 40% of a pay cut have to be part of that when we've got our non-black counterparts getting 40% more for that same role? That means they knew that you were up to the task and up to the job, but they just didn't want to pay you the money. That's what that says. So this psychological contract that you've signed is that I need to be at a detriment in order for me to be good at my job or to do this role. And I continue to be at a detriment because now I'm burning the midnight oil. I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life. For me, there's a mismatch and it don't make sense. I no longer believe that in order for you to excel, move forward, progress, that you need to take a pay cut to do it. I don't agree with that whatsoever. Because if I'm good enough for you to consider me and want me, I shouldn't have to cut anything. I want to add. I don't want to subtract. I want to add and multiply. That's what I want to do. But because of this continued psychological contract, we're telling ourselves that in order for us to see or smell an inch of success, we have to further make a sacrifice, more than we've done already, and take a pay cut. That's mad. That is mental slavery. Because you have to suffer. That's suffering. That's a mental slavery mindset. And that's what I want to say to her. But I don't think she's ready for that chat. She's not ready. Do you know why she's not ready? Because she's already made the choice. She's already made the choice. So there's nothing I'm going to say to her that was going to make her feel any better about her choice. The girl needs to sleep. She needs to sleep, wake up, fresh mind. Stop signing psychological contracts that your ass cannot cash. All I will say is this. When I developed the negotiation masterclass, I really had in my mind the importance of salary negotiation. Because I recognize that the psychological contract that we sign or we have previously signed gives false narrative that if you negotiate, they're going to take the role from you. Or there is also a gap in understanding how to negotiate. So for me, that masterclass was about giving you the skills and the understanding of how to negotiate, what things to consider, what are your non-negotiables and your walk-away point, and what is a reasonable stance in negotiation. So, you see, I've already given you the tools. The podcast is giving the padding, but I've given you the tools. I'm not going to come here and talk about something and not give you the tools to manage it. Because I'm not going to be in the negotiation. Let me tell you something. I have non-negotiables. I have a minimum I charge for particular pieces of work. Minimum. Because I'm not signing the psychological contract that gives you my labour for cheap. No. A labourer's worth his wage. I will never diminish what I do to allow you to have access to it at my own financial detriment. It's not going to happen. You know why? Because bills have to get paid and money have to make. That's the reason. And as black women, we understand what we come to the table with. We have to do 10 times more than our non-black counterparts. We work twice as hard as our black men because we understand how it works. We understand that we have to be more than educated for the role that you're going for. We get that. So when you make the sacrifice of the education, you make the sacrifice of time, your own money for that education, even if you didn't pay for it, you paid to go to the classes, the train and transport that you use. There is a sacrifice there. When does the sacrifice stop? Because when you're going into these roles, homegirl's taking 40% less. I don't understand. You cheapen your labour, they will cheapen you. Simple. You cheapen your labour, they will cheapen you. I'm not cheap. Let me just explain something to you. I'm not cheap, you know. I am not cheap. And you can't treat me like cheap. No, you're not going to treat me like that. When I'm coming to you expensive. Because what I have done to get to where I am now is expensive. The sacrifices I've made is my time. To upskill myself. The sacrifices I've made through education. Those of you who followed me on Snapchat, you saw me when I was doing my level 4 diploma in SIPS. I would finish work at 6. my course starts at 7, I finish at 10, and then I will have weekend class, then I will have an exam the following week. And then if you don't pass your exam, you have to pay for a repeat. So when we talk about sacrifice here, let's remember how we got here. Then when you're remembering how you got here, when they're trying to give you 40% pay cut, just tell them the math ain't mathing. That don't make no sense. If you do not know how to negotiate, go to the masterclass and invest in yourself. Because unless you invest in yourself, no one's going to invest in you. That's why they're going to minus 40%. And that's on period. You keep signing these psychological contracts, and the only person who pays the price is you. Because when you get to them jobs, you're going to find people that didn't compromise themselves. You are training them. They're earning twice as much or more than you. They're going to the pub and every social event because they can afford to. You are going home because you have to order noodles. Yeah, it's true. I've been there. There's only one time in my career, one faithful time, when I took, I'd say that was probably about a 40% pay cut. And the only time I did it was for my mental well-being. That's the only time. And even then, when I look back, I realized something. Mental well-being comes before any cost. But I allowed myself 6 months and I had to go. I said, Toya, you've got 6 months to recuperate and then you've got to go. Because by the time I even got to 4 months, I was probably the most, when it came to commercial contract management, I was the most experienced. People were coming to me to answer questions, and I realized, Toya, your assignment here was to recuperate. It wasn't to train other people. Get out. Get out. And that for me was the exception. It can never be the rule. And it's never happened again. That was more than 8 years ago. And it's never happened again. It can't. Because if you cheapen your labor, they will cheapen you. You can't cheapen me. Sorry. I wear M&S knickers. They're £8 a pack. That's expensive. In fact, it's even risen to £12. It's expensive. I can't do it. I'm not cheapening myself. Let's get to a point where we understand the psychological contracts that we continue to sign. And let's do a review of those psychological contracts. And let's terminate some of them. And operate from a space of also feeling comfortable too by the choices we make. We're not here to be anybody's whipping boys or whipping girls. We are queens. Straighten your crown, straighten your shoulders, upright, and operate like a queen that you are. I have 4 dilemmas that I'm hoping that we've got enough time to get through. Any dilemma that I don't get to, please, next week, let's pray that I'm in a position to record again, and hopefully by the grace of God and the grace of the ancestors, I will discuss your dilemma. So the first dilemma. Dear Toya, I was a locum worker for 3 months outside London. I was tipped off by a colleague that management were building a case against me. Once I was informed of this, I left. 2 weeks later, they have now made a complaint against me to my agency, stating numerous service users have made several complaints about me, which is concerning. I was informed via my agency to give the lead a call to discuss, as they do not want a formal statement. I've informed the lead I am currently on annual leave and only available to have a chat with representation. This was ignored. This she ignored. The work environment was very toxic, and I only stayed until I was able to complete my documentation. Please advise on what I should do. For your information, there were several issues they constantly set me up, giving me wrong information, and the most difficult patients was chastised in front of the entire team, alluding to me leaving to go home 3 hours early. To go home 3 hours. Constantly overloaded and always asks me to do extra work when I said no. I was informed it's doable. Kind regards. Well, I kind of don't know what advice you're asking me for because you've already left. I don't really know what advice. And I don't know what advice I can give you when you know what I'm going to say. Does it really take someone to tip you off for you to know that when you're working as a black woman, we're like a moving target? Why was you not building your burn folder? I'm going to assume you wasn't because you haven't said it here. And since you're an avid listener of the podcast, you should already know what I'm going to ask you. Where is your burn folder? Because you see, he said, she said is all bullshit. These people don't understand and remember the things they do until you come out with concrete proof. And it's the proof that they forget that they've sent. What you have done here is the path of least resistance. You just left the job like that. And what you're not understanding is in the moment you're thinking, I'm just going to leave. You're frustrated. Fair enough. But you're not thinking about the implications. Because it makes it look like you did wrong. That's why you left like that, innit? You just resigned. Somebody tipped you off, you resigned. Okay. Maybe for you that was something you felt that you needed to do. But my question is, these people that are calling you, you said you're on annual leave. I mean, why even have the conversation? Unless you're now telling me you want to be using the same agency. Based on what I'm reading here, I don't think you're going to be able to because they've made a complaint. The agency are not going to necessarily take the risk in placing you again. So that bridge is burned. That's how I look at this. I want to say that there's some roles and there's some jobs that are very sensitive jobs. Yeah? When you're dealing with people, service users like that. Like if you're like in social work, teaching, they're very sensitive roles. Even more reason to have a burn folder. You can't approach me about this and not have a burn folder. I can't help you. That burn folder we're talking about is your coat of armor. It's your security. It's your insurance policy. It's your insurance plan. I operate from a position that I know that at any one time, these people are crazy. They will forget what they've said and they will try and set me up. Every contract I go to, I will remember. This example of this mad woman, Stella, asking me to send my personal email. I've saved it, put it in a burn folder. Because I don't want anyone coming to me talking shit. What did I do? I screenshot, I emailed it to myself. Why? Because I'm not going to have you try to discredit my credibility. You're actually mad. Something we've worked hard for, our credibility. You know you can't get that back. I've spoken about it in podcasts. If you don't understand burn folder, there's an episode called Closet Racist. I even explain how I on a practical level use my burn folder. Go and look at the summary that accompanies each podcast. I actually talk about how to build a burn folder. You do the work. But the advice you're asking me, I don't know what advice you're asking me for. Like, what is it? What outcome are you trying to get? That's probably the better question. What outcome are you looking for? Are you trying to save your job? Are you trying to save your reputation? Where is your burn folder? You want to have conversation. I mean, I don't know what to say. Because you've come to me after the event. I don't actually know what I can say to help you unless you tell me the outcome you're seeking. So maybe this is a to be continued dilemma. I'll give you benefit of the doubt. Moving on. This dilemma is called New Job, Have Not Received the Contract and Salary Still the Same. Hi Toya. Hope you're doing well and congratulations on your wedding. I just have one question to ask you. I recently moved to Canada. Let Judy say that. I don't know what that means. I got a job in operation department in a bank as a contractor for 1 year, and then after 3 months they moved me to AMLD and sanctions team in department anti-money laundering. Ooh, that's big. Which I'm currently working now. It's a new team and nobody knows what exactly they're doing since it's a new department. I've been getting trained from the compliance and legal team, and now they've hired 2 new staff in our team and I was the one training them. However, they have not changed my contract. So you started the new job, then they give you another new job, and you didn't have contracts. Wow. Do you listen to my podcast? No. You hear it, but do you listen to the podcast? I'm not even... You need to... You know, what's it? The last episode, if you're not signing, I'm declining. You need to go and listen to that episode. I'm not even looking at anybody that doesn't sign contract. You're not going to see me. Because if you don't have a contract, you're working at risk. You do realise that? Have I ever told you guys that? If you do not have a contract, you're working at risk. And the risk is you're not going to get the money that they've maybe told you. And also, you're working under a set of terms that may not apply. They have not given me the new contract or changed my salary. I have raised it to the agency and the agency went to our HR, but nothing has been done. I'm still getting the same salary as I was in operations team, which was even less and below the market value. So my question is, why was you even working below market value? Because you didn't get the master classes. This new department, AMLD, is a challenging and more stressful. So today I talked to my line manager and told him that I would like to get a new contract for this job. And if they can raise my salary, since I have been training new staffs and the job is not the same as operations. But you're negotiating while you've already done the job. Don't you know that you weaken your leverage when you do that? Now, if you listen to this, if you get the salary negotiation masterclass or the negotiation masterclass, I talk about leverage, bargaining, power. I talk about it. It's a psychological thing. It's a theory and it works. He then said, he was not aware of it, that I was earning less, and he would talk to the HR to review this. Do you think I did a good job by raising this with my line manager? Well, what other option did you have? It's not about whether it's a good job or not. What other option did you have? You haven't managed this very well at all. Because the new staff are earning more than me, even though I'm the one training them. Thanks. Well, if you listen to this podcast episode called The Psychological Contract, you signed this psychological contract. And let me tell you the psychological contract you signed. The idea that I'm so grateful to have this job, I'm just going to go full steam ahead. And you made their life easier because you just open arms, jumped and dived in to the job. And you made their life easier because you're training staff, you're cheap labour, same contract, and they didn't have to do anything different. You signed the psychological contract for your HR team and everybody else in that organisation to be comfortable. And who is at a disadvantage, Queen? You. I'm going to say this to you right now. This is your learning lesson. This is your L. This is your learning lesson. Go and get the salary negotiation masterclass. Go and get it. Is it negotiation masterclass? Go and get it. You need it. You need it. They're getting you as free labour on the cheap. It's true. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. The only question you've asked me here is, do you think I did a good job by raising this with my line manager? Well, of course, what other option do you have? But now, you've weakened your leverage. You're not going to walk out, are you? So now you have to just apply pressure to get what you want. And I will even go as far as telling the agency you're going to leave unless they sort this out. Otherwise, what choice do you have? Otherwise, you're going to be here in 6 months with the same situation. I'm really, really pissed that amongst everything that I teach here, amongst everything we talk about, we're still starting roles without contracts and without negotiated salaries and day rates or whatever it is. Just because you're grateful to have a job. And now you're training people who earn more than you. Wow. Moving on. So when I was ill, a young lady wrote into the podcast. This is a long one. Sis, was you writing your autobiography? Yeah. Hey, yeah. You know I'm dyslexic. Come on. Okay, let's get into it. The subject is, please help, just started a new job and I'm at my wit's end and want to quit only 2 weeks in. Hi Toya. Just started listening to your podcast, which I love, and I wanted to get your advice, please. Recently started a new role that's meant to be a step up, leading comms for a business unit within a high street brand. I have not had the best experience at work, so I picked this hoping that it would be a busy and not stressful due to people acting the fool. I've had a lifetime of that. At a point now in my life, my sanity and peace are too damn precious for it to be played with by any job. Of course, starting a new job, especially in a new company and sector, is always a bit stressful initially, but this place has taken the piss. I'm only on week 2 and thinking of quitting and just try and find a job in the new year. In my first week, I didn't get my laptop until halfway through, and actual access to my calendar and emails didn't come until this week, so maybe a week after, on a Monday afternoon. Yet this company positions itself as a leading technology partner, the Jokers. I thought once I had this, my problems would be behind me, but I'm now seeing seriously toxic patterns in my team and my line manager that are causing me serious concern, namely a lack of communication and thus guidance for me as a new starter. On my first day in the office, my line manager just showed me where I sat and then disappeared for the rest of the day in meetings. I got no usual meet and greet or introduction, and most people in our team or a proper onboarding program that you would usually expect. I did this myself, and from that figured out who is who I'm meant to be line managing. It wasn't until last Friday that I got a bit of time with her for her to say these are key upcoming projects to work on. I spoke with her about me being new and needing support until I get my head around stuff. Yet, an issue I'm finding is that she just dumps stuff on me, usually with little notice and absolutely no guidance on how I can go about getting the information I need to do this. This Tuesday, in a meeting that I thought was just to go through upcoming plans, I found out that we, including me, were doing a presentation on Wednesday afternoon to the deputy of the person who was the CEO of my business unit, an important stakeholder. She then said I should update the strategy and help present it. Bear in mind, this is pretty much my second day of working because I've had no access to IT till Monday afternoon, and I've been given no briefing information beyond a basic plan of upcoming activities. It's not that I'm not capable of delivering presentations or anything like that, but just a shock to be asked to do something with such a tight turnaround when I'm still so new and don't know really anything to be able to confidently present, especially to present something and answer any queries that come up, especially with senior executives who feel that we are currently not delivering enough. I get that. Today, in a meeting, she gave me an action to develop messaging on an important issue affecting, but again, no information on how I could go about doing it. As in, get the info from here to talk to this person. Like, even minor things like setting up a one-to-one is tricky to pin her down for. I've tried repeatedly to get time in her diary and I keep getting told, oh, I'm too busy then. Then, to top it off, she's now starting to already be chasing me to get work done that is not imminent or deadline heavy, which I've not been given any support by her on delivering. I did say in my first few weeks I would need time to get my head around stuff and then come out guns blazing. No, you don't come out guns blazing. I don't know where, it's that psychological contract, hit the ground running, guns blazing. Please, you shouldn't have even said that one. How can you come out guns blazing if the bullet for the gun is loaded by a manager that's avoiding you? As I'm great at picking stuff up quickly and running with it, but in what is essentially my first week, this feels extremely unfair and unreasonable. Starting to seriously dislike her, and I think the feeling is mutual, as can sense a coldness forming between us. All of this makes me feel incredibly more anxious about the role and wonder whether I made a mistake in selecting the role over other opportunities I had. Anyway, I'm thinking of talking about this in my next meeting with her, just to say I'm going to need some direct guidance and support until I get more settled? And also, can I get looped in on stuff that's scheduled earlier, the better? What do you think? Is my expectations re-guidance reasonable at a senior leader level? Would love to hear your thoughts, and please be honest, as this is my first time working at this level. Thanks, Anonymous. Well, first and foremost, you need to listen to the Passing Your Probation Masterclass, because that's what's going to help you. I tell you what to do in your first few weeks and how to manage these type of people. Shall I tell you why? These are the type of people that a week before your probation, they will tell you they're extending your probation. It's a setup. How can somebody start a new job with no IT equipment whatsoever? You're better than me, you know. You see me, you're better than me. If it's me that she asked to do the presentation, I'll say, unfortunately, I can't do it because you're not giving me the tools to be able to present to the best of my ability. I will put her on the spot. How you should have started this was in the first few days, you would have developed your objectives. Go and listen to the Passing Your Probation Masterclass. I'm not going to give it away here. I give you the tools. I even give you templates. I devise templates. The reason you're in this position is you didn't set the stall out from the beginning. It's your job to do it. It's not hers. I'm so sorry. I see onboarding as a luxury. Listen, it's not many places I've been where you get onboarded. You see this new contract that I took on recently? I got onboarded. I didn't know what to do. I was confused. I got links to SharePoints and I was surprised. I've been doing this job for almost 10 years and I can count on one hand how many onboarding I've had. And it's disgraceful. Because if you do not set me up to win, are you setting me up to fail? But you have to operate from a position of, I have to have set things in order for me to at least get through my first few weeks. You definitely have to have a conversation with her now because you're so far in. And I think that it's important for you to be very clear to her about your expectations. Clearly, if you're getting this type of role, you're very capable. And I know that already. Because all these organizations, they want the best. You are the best. That's why you're at this role. But you have to learn from this. This is how people get set up, blamed, and put out. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? Don't allow this woman to make you her scapegoat. The reason why she's cold towards you is because you're not dancing to the beat of her tune. How can you dance to the beat of her tune if you don't know what music's coming on? Do you understand? This come and hit the ground running, shoot from all cylinders, come all guns blazing. I don't like them words. It's a psychological contract that you're signing that prevents you from taking the time to grow naturally. Because if you go all guns blazing, how are you going to have an opportunity to understand the lay of the land? I don't like those provocative terms. Because it means that you're not allowed to grow and learn at your pace. You can't just wake up one morning and know how to do stuff. And the thing is, what is happening is the toxicity here I'm seeing is it's making you question your own ability because you're reaffirming yourself here in the dilemma by saying that you're capable of doing presentations, and I don't doubt it. But you can't do a presentation with one hand behind your back and the laptop closed. You need to know what you're presenting. And the worst thing is, it puts you on the spot in a way, because then they'll turn to you and ask you to present, knowing that they haven't given you the information. So there has to be a point where you draw the line and say, if I don't get this from you, I can't continue in this position because you're not allowing me to do my job. And the reason I'm saying that you have to have that conversation is because you will end up having that conversation at the end of your probation. And then when your probation gets extended, you're going to lose it. And if it's not a perm role and they end up terminating you at the end of the contract, you're going to lose it. Because you and I both know that will be unfair. But there's nothing fair about working for people who do not have a grasp and concept of how to support people who are new joiners into an organisation. I fully agree with everything that you've said here. Everything. Everything. But now it's about finding a solution. And it's difficult, right? Because no one tells you what to expect within your first few weeks. No one tells you that there's certain things that you need to proactively put in place. And this is why I did the probation masterclass, because I know they don't teach you certain things. Even as a contractor, you need to go and get the probation masterclass. You need to. Because as a contractor, you're kind of judged on your deliverables, but the concept is the same. What are you supposed to be delivering? What is the impact and why? These are the conversations I had at the beginning of my contract. What are my deliverables? Tell me what they are. What are the deadlines? What do you need from me? How are you going to support me to do this? Do you have stakeholder buy-in? But these are all the questions I asked at interview. So I already knew that I would be given the tools because I asked the very direct questions at interview. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that some people are not deceitful in interviews, but if you do your due diligence at an interview, you'll know what to expect when you get into a role. So you have to now question, what was it about this role that made you accept it over the others? Now you've accepted it, how can you make it work? And if you listen to anything I say in any podcast, you should never shut the doors on other opportunities because you just don't know. And this is a classic example. So I hope my advice here has helped you. I hope that you're able to also go and have a look at the Passing Your Probation Masterclass, whether you are a perm, fixed term or a contractor. That masterclass is for you because it's never failed me. Those templates are what I use in my current contracts, is what I used as a perm. I've made sure that I've added a few things just to really make you think about how you can best be supported over the, your first few weeks and get through your contract or get through your probation and get offered a perm role properly. I've given you the tools. It's up to you whether you want to use them. But I wish you all the luck in the world because it's not a nice position to be in. And I empathise with you, but you've got this. You've got this because you've got the podcast, you've got the tools, and you've got the tenacity, and I can see that in this dilemma. So we have come to the end of this episode of the Toy Talks podcast. I just want everybody to really think about the common themes in this episode and what I mean by the psychological contract. I made a decision many years ago to invest in my freedom, my psychological freedom, from always thinking and feeling as though I need to be a detriment to make others feel comfortable. Whether it's from a financial aspect, whether it's from a social aspect, whether it's from an aspect of progression, or being held back because either they're not ready or there's no position for me, I will find pastures new because the psychological contract that they need you to sign is to keep you mentally enslaved. And I've chosen freedom. And as we can continue to invest in our knowledge and find safe spaces to be honest and learn, you're investing in your freedom. Terminate those psychological contracts and choose yourself. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm very active on Instagram. My personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. My podcast Instagram page is Toya_Talks. If you would like to follow me on TikTok, it's Toya Washington. I will be uploading content in due course. I've got content that I need to upload. If you have a work-related dilemma or a life-related dilemma, please email. The email address is hello@toytalks.com. Your anonymity will be protected. All I ask is you explain what outcome you are seeking. Please be clear and straight to the point to enable me to be able to effectively give you the best advice I can. And please also remember I'm dyslexic, so I need it straight to the point. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for supporting the podcast, listening to the podcast, sharing the podcast, and more importantly, for opening up your minds and creating a safe space for us to grow, share, and learn. This podcast is not just for people in the corporate world. It's for all Black women in the working world as we teach, learn, and grow together. The whole premise of this podcast is to teach, guide, and educate Black women how to navigate the world of work successfully and in turn highlight the path of our success. My name is Toya Washington and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.